Welcome to Connect with Rohan Alvis, brought to you through Satyajit Creations on YouTube, the channel that connects you to the various resource persons and subject experts on numerous topics. Today, a warm welcome to Professor I.M. Dharmadasa. Professor Dharmadasa is a senior staff grade professor and head of the Electronic Materials and Sensors Group at Sheffield, Hallam University in the United Kingdom. Professor Dharmadasa is a very proud product of the University of Peradeniya in Sri Lanka, and he read for his Ph.D. at the University of Durham. He then returned to Peradeniya, his university, as a lecturer, and then in 1984 he returned to the UK to pursue his interest in research into solar energy conversion. Professor Dharmadasa has worked at the University College of Cardiff, British Petroleum or BP Research, and at Sheffield Hallam. And to his credit, he has supervised 29 Ph.D. projects, 14 years of postdoctoral work, and published 6 GB or UK patents. He has also authored 260 scientific articles and written 2 books on solar energy. An impressive record. The list doesn't stop there, but I have to sort of have a brief resume introduction. But I have to say this as well. Professor Dharmadasa is a past president of the Association of Professional Sri Lankans in the UK, commonly called APSL or apsl.org.uk. He has been leading the solar and other renewable energies project of APSL, which has been launched in Sri Lanka. More about that later. Professor Dharmadasa, a very warm welcome to Connect with Rohan Alvis.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleased to have you here. So, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, your school or schools, and your entry to Peradeniya, and then what brought you to the UK. I think it's a very simple question, but there'll be a big answer, long answer. We would really like to hear.
Thank you, Rohan. I was born and brought up in Kurunagala district, a very dry area in the dry zone. Although I was in Kurunagala district, I was perhaps closer to the Anuradhapura. Galgamuwa is in between Anuradhapura and Kurunagala.
This is the Mahonikawaratia.
Mahonikawaratia.
Yeah, that area.
Yes, in that area. And our village was about 12 miles away from Galgamuwa. It's the next village to the Galgiriya Kanda. Right. That is the longest mountain in the country.
Really?
It's called Galgiriya Kanda or Digaduru Kanda.
Sorry?
Digaduru Kanda.
Digaduru Kanda or Galgiriya Kanda. It's the longest mountain range in Sri Lanka. Now, that's something I did not know, but that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area, but it's very dry. That is the problem.
Yes.
So people are not very economically sound.
Challenged. Yeah.
In fact, in that area, people they call it it's a land-rich area, but cash poor.
Of course. Yes.
So I'm from a farming community. My father was a farmer. My mother was a housewife. We were 8 people in the family. I was the 4th. Our education was very tough.
So the family was involved in community farming, like chaina cultivations and things like that?
Everything, right. Yeah. I have done it until my O-levels.
Right.
I can do anything in that farming community because we were doing everything.
So it's a family working in the farm, and then the extended villages turn up and all of that. Yeah, that's really fascinating to hear.
If I come to education part, I had to walk 3 miles to my school.
The closest
primary school. Closest. That was, I had to have a primary school. 3 miles up and down, 6 miles per day. So that was my whole year, first year and second year. So then it came 1956. CWW Kannangara,
Free education.
And then they gave us a school to our village cluster.
Mm-hmm.
Our village had a school for 3 villages.
Mm-hmm.
Only 3 or 4 teachers came, no buildings.
So hold on. So you said there were teachers, there were children, no buildings.
No buildings.
Try and explain. Was there a big tree or
luckily,
councillor or a church?
Luckily, our village had a what is it called? Rajamaha Vihari.
Rajamaha Vihari, right.
So the Dharmadasa was a very nice building. So that was our school. So we had 5 classes. I came back to my year 2, and until year 5, end of year 5, I was educated in that temple.
Yeah.
In the temple.
It's a
beautiful
premises.
temple.
Of course, yeah.
It's a beautiful temple. Even today, when I go to my village, when I go to Sri Lanka.
Yeah. So what's the name of the temple?
Kadurava Rajamaha Vihari.
There you are, listeners and viewers. Kadurava Rajamaha Vihari. Yeah.
It's called Veragala Rajamaha Vihari. There must be some kind of connection with the king.
Mm-hmm.
That is why the Banamanu was built very nicely. So that was my school. And then during that time, the parents, my father and other people, they realized we can't have the school like this. We want to build a school. So they got together through Sramadana. They started to build a permanent building for the school. So I was very small, but while they were working, I was running here and there. So I saw it's happening. So that is how the school came.
Your job boy or the Atvarakaya for the construction, right?
I was too small for that, I think.
That as well. In this modern age, we would call it modern slavery, but forget about that. That's just by the way.
So after year 5,
Yeah.
I went back to our Mahavidyalaya. It had only 1 permanent building and also another one thatched building. That is how the school was running. And then I was there from year 6 to O-levels.
O-levels, right. So about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Yes. So when I was in year 8, our principal, I remember him with great respect, L.V. Disanayak, he started science route. We had arts and commerce, but we didn't have science.
I see.
He started science route, and I was the second batch.
I see.
But we didn't have a science lab or a building, only a classroom with a blackboard.
And theory. Yeah.
And theory.
Yeah.
So, but even then the teachers came, but they didn't stay there because it's a very difficult area. Water is difficult. Accommodation is not up to the standard.
So if the teachers were from, say, even Kurunagar, let alone Colombo, they wouldn't want to stay too long.
Maximum 3 months.
3 months. So
3 months. They goes back. So that is how we started. And then again my father came into the picture because I was in the class, 15 of us, and in our previous batch another 15. All those parents and the principal started to build another building. That is for a science lab and also for 3 classrooms.
Professor Dharmadasa, tell me about this, your father putting together a Shramadana team. Is it like a village development cluster or a community that they would put together?
It is a wonderful way of doing things. The principal was Mr. Disanayak, organized these meetings. He explained, we have a science route now, we need to build a school, and people put money. These are farmers.
So they put small amounts of money, not philanthropists putting hundreds of thousands of rupees, but it's the 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 50 rupees, small numbers.
In fact, they started the parts of the school.
Right.
They said, right, I am going to build all this part. I will provide sand.
Yeah. Oh, I see. In kind as well.
In kind as well.
Money. Right.
So they were there because they had to spend some money for masons.
Yes.
And we saw it happening because that is my first year. So within 1 year, we built the building. Parents and teachers worked very well. And we were the people who brought water from the well during our English period and also during our science periods because we were playing in the ground.
So the English and science people cut classes and did all of this work.
Well, we were teenagers by that time.
Promoted, but that's how that was reality. Year 9, we were about 13, 14.
Of course. So we were helping to build the building, and we had a science lab. We had some chemicals. There were 2 teachers I must mention. They stayed us. Perhaps we had to stay 3 years, not 2 years, without teachers.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
They didn't complete our syllabus at all. They completed about 60%, perhaps 70%.
So some of the stories we hear today happened even in the 60s.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Teachers and they're just doing.
So what happened was after 3 years we had to sit because we can't go on.
Of course. Yeah.
So I was the first one who passed the GCSE.
So you were the first in your school or the cluster to pass your O-levels in the science stream?
In the science stream. And Mr. Disanayaka, when he started the science route, he said, I will organize very special 3 scholarships to people who passed for the 3 students who passed the GCSE
in science.
So
what happened next?
So I was the first one.
Yes.
The second time 2 people they went to Kuliyapete Central, I went to Ibagam Central.
So, I see. Ibagam Central is just outside Kurunagala.
Outside Kurunagala on Damula Road.
Yeah.
That was a very good central school during that time.
Of course.
Most of the students are scholars from 5th year and 8th
catchment
year.
areas. Yeah.
So I went there to do my A-levels.
Yeah.
But remember, I spent 3 years to complete my GCSE O-levels. I had to wait 1 more year for the results. After 6 months, I had to join. So can you see? 4 years lost.
4 years lost.
So I was there in Ibagam Central for 2.5 years to do my A-levels. And then I must tell you, at that point, I had a lot of facilities in the school. I entered the university within there were about 2,000 students in the school. I was the best student. I won the best student prize.
I see. Well,
can you see how difficult the primary education, secondary education, as soon as you came to a good school, Ibagam Central.
Yeah. So here was a bright student who was given the facilities and you made use of it.
Exactly.
And then you went from Ibagam Central to the University of Peradeniya.
Yeah.
And wonderful story.
It's what
reality.
It's exactly. During that time, in fact, when we were ready for the A-levels, there was a very competitive exam for training college. For Maharagama training.
This is teacher training you're talking
about.
Teacher training. Right.
Okay. Usually they took 95% teachers, but they had, for that 5%, they had a competitive exam to take from students. So I sat for that as well. So what happened was, I passed that. I was selected to the Maharagama Training College.
Teacher training.
Training. They gave me a teaching appointment for 3 months for Kagarao Central. At the same time, I was selected for Peradeniya University. So that was a huge problem for my parents and for myself.
Because had you become a teacher, you would have been earning money. And then had you gone for the university, another 3 years of education, no money.
There was a real problem. In our adjoining village, there was an arts graduate, graduated from Peradeniya University without a job.
There you are.
There you are.
So there was no guarantee by going to university you will be offered a job. So therefore financial, but here was a teacher appointment from Maharagama Teacher Training College and giving you Kapirawa.
I had a huge problem. 3 of us, myself, father and mother, we were having discussions what to do. And also a lot of negative things came because of that jobless graduate.
Yes.
Because people didn't know the difference between science and arts.
Of course, yes.
But people have to think that way.
Yeah.
Why do you leave a job like this? So it came to a date that I had to make a decision. By that time, I must tell you, I was thinking about all these. I had a scholarship, I can keep that scholarship. If I go to university 3 years, if I go to Maharagama 2 years, I can't help the family.
Of course.
So last day, when I had to take the job or say no to the teaching job, my father asked me, Puta, what do you want to do? So I explained to them very cleanly. By that time, I had a clean idea. If you go to Maharagama, 2 years in Maharagama, I may become a principal in the university, that's it. But if I do science degree, 3 years at Peradeniya, 3 more years, well, 1 more year.
1 more year extra investment.
But even if I go for teaching, I may get a better salary, better status, I can go to industry and work. So we also have a scholarship. I prefer to go to university. You know what he said?
That's your father?
My father. He said, Puta, go with confidence. I have a lot of lands. I will sell one by one and I will allow you to go forward.
It's a wonderful guarantee and assurance from
It's a wonderful assurance. I still remember with a lot of love. And I went to Peradeniya, science faculty.
Tell me a little bit about Peradeniya. I mean, you're and if I can use the phrase, the village boy going to university at Peradeniya. How was it? Was there a difference?
It's completely a different world. I was in a dry zone, a lack of water during the summer.
And here were taps running without being closed.
We had to. What he said is very important. When I was a lecturer, I shouted at people. The students, they did the labs. They
just left
opened the taps and went away without closing it. That's the attitude of people. So that is. I came to my lecture period.
I know you skip the student days, but I'm sure there are good reasons and not so good reasons why you skip. But tell us on this program.
It's a beautiful place. Peradeniya Gardens is there. Peradeniya University is completely a different world. Especially when people come from Jaffna to Peradeniya, they can't even believe. We call it Gendagampolo.
Gendagam means sulfur, right? Sulfur.
It has a special meaning in Sinhala because you get all sort of people into one place.
I see.
You live in one house, residential places, and you learn a lot. It is not the science only; it is socially.
Because all the Sri Lankans, wherever we come from, would get into the dormitories or the residencies and together. I see.
That is a wonderful learning. I must tell you something. The first day I was registered, when I came out, this was in 1969. When I came out, seniors came and caught us for ragging.
This is for ragging.
Ragging. And we were waiting, they were collecting people, and another group of people came and said, no ragging. They took us, and I was very happy because no ragging. So they took us along the old Kalaha Road to Hindavilla Road to a house across the paddy field, and we were there about 20 people sitting there. We didn't know what's happening, but we were very happy because we were away from the ragging. And then somebody came and sat down on a bed. We were sitting everywhere. Full. The room is full.
The place was full of people.
And lecturing us.
On politics or on
JVP?
Right.
Later on.
So you started your first panthi.
Later on, we realized that day they gave us 2 lessons in one go. When they finished the second lesson, I didn't know that. They went round they were recruiting. 69
So
September.
we would have viewers from all political parties across the spectrum. So there will be right wing, centrist, leftist, whatever. So this is a classic
it's one
revelation.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact,
and it's an open secret.
Yeah, it must tell you, they were asking, what do you think about it? They were going round one by one. People agreed. We agreed. When it came to me, because I was, perhaps for that age, I was mature enough. I said, I fully agree with what you say, but I do not agree what you're going to do.
I see.
I had that guts to say, that is why I am here today. Otherwise, I'm one of those 60,000 people who died.
Because some of your friends and colleagues joined the movement in a very militant way.
Coming back to coming back to education, first year completely gone.
What do you mean by gone?
Finished.
Went by. Yeah.
I scored A pass for physics. I was selected for physics special.
Physics special. So you excelled in physics. You excelled in physics.
Yes.
So you're going to specialize in physics.
Specialize in physics. They take about 10 or 15. Put the list. I said no.
I'm a very stubborn man. Determined man.
Because I had a decision. I talked to my parents. I'm going to graduate in 3 years. If I do physics special, I have to spend another year. So I went to Osman Jaratna, talked to him, explained to him, and he said, right, the best thing to do is, I fully understand your responsibility. You do general. If you get a good class, we will give you a special permission to do a special degree while you are serving us as a demonstrator.
I see.
The same thing happened. And in fact, another thing happened because I was invited to teach in a tutoring Canby.
All right.
Mr. D.B. Vijayatunga's, one
of our president's
brother had a class in Katukale.
So even in the late 1960s, we didn't have tuition classes, as was tutories.
He was charging only £10 for 8 subjects, 10 rupees for 8 subjects. It is like a school.
Yeah.
And I was asked
to
teach physics, and I did that. And he was paying me, I think 45 rupees or something per month. That's a huge amount.
That's a good number.
And he liked my teaching, and he asked me to come in there another day for boys as well in the afternoon. So he doubled it.
Which is something he's talking about, boys and girls in a tutoring.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
I had £100 rupees from my scholarship. I had more than enough for the university money.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
When I went home for the New Year, I was buying clothes for my parents from Candy. Yes. Can you see the blessing comes? Yeah. And my father.
The good follows you.
Exactly. I had more than, from the first year onwards, I didn't have any money from my home.
So you had a very fruitful, enjoyable 3 years or whatever at the university. And then tell me, because I have lots of other things to ask about. I mean, it's fascinating conversation.
What happened was, after the third year, I graduated with a second upper. That was from Royal Combination, Chemistry, Physics and Mathematics. Very difficult combination.
In today's world, we call it a 2-1.
2-1, yes. And went home, and the appointment letter was there.
Appointment letter for what?
For graduate teaching.
I see.
Because as soon as we sat for the exams...
Yeah. So graduate teaching where? At the university or at a school?
In a school.
All right, okay. Yeah.
Because this is for graduates. As soon as they sit for the exam, appointment is at home. When I went
the letter goes home.
The letter was waiting there. So I went to Kuliapiti Central. After 1 month, we had a mutual transfer to Varipula.
Right, because it's closer to your home.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were teaching at Kuliapiti Central and Varipula for a short while.
Until I get the results.
Pending results. Right. Yeah, I understand.
Results. I got a good class. I was asked to come as a demonstrator.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, I joined the university, worked as a demonstrator, And at the same time, I had a special permission to do my special degree.
I see. So you were then employed by the university as a demonstrator and then also studying for your special degree.
Special degree.
So you had
That
an
is
income
when-
and studies both.
That is when I converted to English medium. First 6 months, it was killing me.
Why is that?
I couldn't write anything, my tutorials, in English. Because everything up to the first degree, I have studied in Sinhala.
Yeah.
My English knowledge is very poor. So during the 6 months, we had lecturers from UK through the British Council.
Yeah.
English is one thing, the accent is another thing.
Of course.
We couldn't understand the word.
Yes.
So first 6 months, I thought, what the hell I did?
So, Professor Dharmadasa, so you're saying when for the special degree, you had teachers or lecturers from England
Yes.
at Peradeniya.
Yes.
So this would have been some exchange of lecturers and
through
things
the
like
British
that?
Council.
Or through the British Council. Right,
Because
okay.
in our university, we didn't have lecturers for physics special degrees.
I see.
So I still remember Dr. Fairclough came from Birmingham and he took our lectures.
And that's a fascinating revelation because I grew up in a different era.
Yeah.
We had all local staff.
Yeah.
So that's
we
a
had
big
we
difference.
had quite a lot of difficulties understanding them, understanding English, understanding the accent, understanding the subject. But after 6 months, I got on very well. Within another 2 years, I ended up with a first class degree.
So 6 months of conversion into or understanding the English language and the accent of a Birmingham Englishman. I mean, that's a Brummie, right? And then you get a first class.
At the same time, I must tell you, this is I'm saying this with my humble nature.
Of course.
It was another batch with 12 people, including me. I topped the batch as well.
Professor Dharmadasa, sorry, you have broken all the records right from your kindergarten
Exactly.
to out of university. Okay, wonderful.
I still think that the primary, secondary, I had a very tough, no facilities. As soon as I came to Birmingham Central and the university, I had the similar facilities for everybody. I think I have done very well.
You made use of it to the benefit of yourself, and of course the country has benefited.
So with that first class, I was made assistant lecturer, permanent assistant lecturer. And within 2 years, since I had 2 degrees, I won an open Commonwealth Scholarship to come to Durham to do my Ph.D.
So that's the University of Durham in
university.
the north of England here.
In 1977, I came to UK. Within 3 years, usually it takes about 4 years.
Yes.
Within 3 years, I completed my Ph.D. and went back to my job.
This is the thing. I really wanted to connect you through this program with our viewers as not just to say how good you were, but as an inspiration to our students as well as the fellow Sri Lankan community and overseas as well, beyond, to see where you can have a very tough, hard life at the start without facilities. However, if you have the determination to succeed and the vision to succeed, I think that's why we are very keen in this program with we connect people with who are an inspiration to society and to the individuals as well. So this is fascinating.
There are a lot of things our young people to learn from this. That is why sometimes I don't hide these things, because no point of hiding these things.
Absolutely.
We have to say it to our to encourage our young people.
Professor Dharmadasa, I must say, I mean, we are conducting this interview in the English language, but I think on Satyajit Creations on YouTube, the channel that brings you matches or introduces resource persons and experts, I think we will do a program in Sinhalese as well, so that more people listen and benefit from this. That's very important. So, Professor Dharmadasa, so you were offered a British Council scholarship to the University of Durham. Is that for your PhD or
That is for my PhD.
for your PhD? So you read your PhD
in Durham University in 1980. I completed. Went back to Sri Lanka.
what was it on?
It was on solid state electronics.
Solid state electronics. So you saw a niche, an opportunity, and it was also nature, because where you started from was the dry zone, and you were doing solid state electronics, which involved conversion of electric photovoltaic, I suppose I'm talking slightly technical here, the solar power, etc. So that was a wonderful combination. So tell us a little bit more, and we will move on to the other topics.
Right. And when I returned to Sri Lanka with that interest, after completing
Went back to
Peradeniya, I was a lecturer in physics department for 4 years.
Right.
No research at all.
Okay.
No research at all. 100% teaching.
Yes.
100% teaching. And then I never wanted to go back to a foreign country. I built my own house in Kandy and we settled there. But after 4
I just
years,
detected the word we. So you got married and raised a family there.
Yes,
Okay.
In fact, I got married before I came to Durham.
I
Two
see.
of us came to Durham together.
All right. Okay.
So we had a son and a daughter.
Right.
After 4 years, I thought I have built a house. I have 2 children now. I want to do some research because teaching only doesn't satisfy me. So I didn't want to come to UK. I wrote to US, Australia and New Zealand. One Australian university asked for references to my referees in UK. That is my supervisor and external examiner.
At Durham.
Yes. Then external examiner knew that I'm ready to come out of the country.
Right.
And he just asked me during those times letters,
Yes.
would you like to come and work with me? I said yes. Within 2 months, I received the work permit at home.
So you applied to go to New Zealand to send the referees as the English referees, and the referees said, come and work for us in the UK. Right. Wonderful.
It's then the High Commission asked me to do a medical checkup.
Yeah, the usual. Yeah.
Asked me to come and collect the work permit. So I went with my passport. And
here you are in 2022. We're doing an interview.
A beautiful green color work permit. Pass it to me, and he wished me luck. He said, all the best. I was puzzled. I said, what about my visa on the passport? He said, with this paper, you can walk into United Kingdom.
Yeah. So it's an interesting point. You studied in Sri Lanka, graduated in Sri Lanka, did your PhD in England, in Durham University, went back to Sri Lanka, and here you are coming back
To Cardiff.
To Cardiff this time.
Yes.
Now, in the professional association, the APSL, we talk about, and we talk on to various audiences about brain drain and brain gain. Where do you stand on that? Because you were brains gained in Sri Lanka, a benefactor of free education, universal free education. Then you gained your qualifications and enhanced your knowledge in the UK, went back to Sri Lanka to give back. You did the usual things that families do in Sri Lanka, raise a family, build a house, buy a car and that sort of stuff. And then you found that it was not challenging because there was no research and development, R&D, but you were simply a lecturer, a high-level teacher. Yeah. So your thirst to do research and development brought you to the UK. Yes, so I think the reason I know some of your work is because I've been involved through the APSL about your Surya Bala Sangrama or the solar village concept. Come to it a little later. So where do you see, was it the United Kingdom or Sri Lanka that has benefited most from your journey on planet Earth so far?
Short answer is both. Short answer is
right.
Both. I must tell you, you asked a very good question because when I left in 1984, I had tears in my eyes.
There you are, listeners.
When I took off from Katunayaka,
you were sad to leave your motherland.
Sad to leave them. But it happened several times. But you said brain drain out. I always thought Sri Lanka, my motherland, lost me. But during the higher education link program, I will tell you a little bit more.
Right.
What I did was I organized 6 Ph.D. scholarships to 6 young lecturers in the country. They are now back in the country working. So the Sri Lanka didn't lose me. Sri Lanka gained another 5 lecturers.
So it's an interesting point because in Sri Lanka, those who are watching us in Sri Lanka will say anyone leaving the country, they have left, they've benefited from the education and gone off. But here is a man, a gentleman par excellence, basically, who has gone out of the country and brought that knowledge. And also by being in the UK, he's trained people of Sri Lankan origin and put them back. So the mentality of who is an expatriate is the other issue. There's a myth saying anyone who leaves is an expatriate, but your body may be like us here in the UK, but your mind and soul basically is looking back to help Sri Lanka. I think there are a number of people, and you're one of them in that capacity. So it's actually Sri Lanka has benefited from the brain drain out of Sri Lanka. And this is something that's relevant even today because there are lots of young people leaving Sri Lanka for overseas, for education, and sometimes they go. You were crying, tears in your eyes when you left Sri Lanka. Some of them are leaving today on the basis, thank God I'm out of this place. But one day they will all be contributing back, not just sending foreign remittances, but also their knowledge and expertise, bringing it back. I mean, the international Sri Lankan community overseas, or sometimes we call it the diaspora, but it's the overseas community, will give back to Sri Lanka, and you are a prime example. Professor Dharmadasa, continue with the higher education link because that's something from the United Kingdom offered to other countries, and you made use of that to bring that knowledge and experience back to Sri Lanka.
I think you raised a very important question. What I did was in Cardiff, 4 years, very profitable research. I published about 20 papers in 4 years. And then I took another challenge, moved from academia to industry, to British Petroleum, BP, to manufacture solar panels. So I joined 25 people, a group of people. We made the prototype and then we did the job. And I came back to academia after 2 years. So I joined in 1990 to Sheffield Hallam University, 32 years now in this university. At that point, in 1990, I saw that researchers like us can see what solar energy can do to the world. So while I was doing research, teaching, I started to promote it. So when I promote it, in Sheffield area, I realized the interest of teachers and pupils, and then I went to Colombo for various events, and I started this higher education link program.
Right.
In fact, it was a beautiful something. I must tell you, it happens automatically. I went to a British Council organized study in Britain exhibition. In the night, when they finished, they had a dinner in the British Council garden, and I went in, and there were two ladies. I was talking to them. One was a Sri Lankan lady, another lady was an English lady. I was talking to them, having a drink, eating, standing up, and they were asking me various things. So I said, I am here. It is not only for this exhibition. Tomorrow I am having a workshop with Sri Lankan universities. My research is solar. We have enough solar energy. I am promoting renewables in this country. You know, it was about midnight. This lady, I must mention that name, Dr. Vikramaratne, Rupa Vikramaratne. She said, by the way, I'm the Deputy Director of the British Council. I really like what you do. And we will support you to do this work. And asked me to come following day, sign the form, and we got the funding for 6 years.
So you got funding for 6 years from the British Council.
British Council, it is from DFID.
Yeah.
DFID, but British Council managed it. I was coordinating it for 6 years. That is how I established the internal network among academics, industrialists
in Sri Lanka.
So to promote renewables.
Right. So this was a Department of International Development of the UK government supporting through the British Council work that you were doing in Sri Lanka. So you had the finances to do the project.
Yes. Right? Because they provide mobility, funding for mobility. We completed about 14 senior academic visits and we wrote papers. The main aim was to establish solar energy research in Sri Lankan universities and also promote giving public lectures around the country to use renewable energy for the social development.
So, Professor Dharmadasa, am I right in thinking at that time in Sri Lanka, we didn't really have a working knowledge or understanding of how to use solar power to convert it into energy? And this was something you started pioneered.
In fact, when I started the first conference series, every year we had 2 or 3 conferences. So when we started, there were only 3 very small solar energy companies in Sri Lanka.
Right.
They were struggling to do various things with solar. But when we started this with the academic community, academic network, it really took off. I'm really happy with that program. This is one of my achievements, I think. In 1990, we had only 3 solar energy companies. Now we have 200 companies registered in the country.
Right.
And out of 200, not all of them are active.
Of course.
60 solar energy companies now installing solar roofs, solar systems, and so on.
Right. Now that's an interesting point. So you are doing this work, and not just the research work, but also having workshops and making our communities know both at policy level and at business level and people level on solar power. So, because correct me if I'm wrong, the Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority, SLSEA, came into being in the mid-2000s.
It came very late.
Very late. But tell me, did you have any connection or input to the Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority?
Of course, if you remember, you, me, and Krishan Dehergoda.
That's Professor Krishan Dehergoda who was at the SLSEA at that time. Yes, I remember that.
In 2009,
right,
we went to meet our Mahinda Rajapaksa president.
The then president at that time.
Yeah, 3 of us.
President at that time, I remember that, yes.
And after that event, Krishan Dharmadasa became one of the chairmen of SLSEA.
I see.
So that is how we started first 2 solar farms in the country.
So without you having to say this, I will say this. You did a lot of work towards the solar energy policy in Sri Lanka, etc. And then you made that presentation to the Sustainable Energy Authority and so on.
I remember the first science and energy technology minister I met was Mr. Bernard Soisa.
That's a long time ago.
That's
when
a
you
long
say
time ago.
Bernard Soisa,
Bernard Soisa.
he was from the Lanka Samasamaja Party.
Exactly.
He was the technology minister in the 1970 to 77 administration.
He's the first science and technology.
I remember.
And after that, every science and technology minister in the country I have met personally, and I have given in writing. I have given presentations. Not only that, most of the power and energy ministers, I can mention the name if I need. And I met 2 presidents personally. Gave the solar energy strategy.
Yes, I recall that.
To the President, Prime Minister and the Science and Technology Minister. That is how this Suryabala Sangrama came in 2006. I was so happy to see that. The government response was very slow, but it took off.
Yes.
But I was really happy with the Suryabala Sangrama, and that is what I wanted in the country. But again, that also slowed down because of various reasons.
I mean, I can look at it in 2 different ways. It has been a very slow momentum for the solar power to becoming, in a commercial type of venture, a practical venture in Sri Lanka. Maybe it's that snowballing effect, but equally the bureaucracy, the state bureaucracy, to look at something new, something out of the box. Because I think in Sri Lanka, mainly we would import hydrocarbons, fuel, which is like diesel, petroleum products, coal, hydrocarbons. And then when you come and say, well, you don't need to do all of this, you could get it from the sun that shines almost 364 days out of 5 days a year. How do you find that the officialdom, including some of the politicians, reacting? Was it a favorable response, or was it a sort of a muted response?
When I met most of the ministers, they were all very interested.
But they're politicians, right?
They're politicians, yes. But nothing much happened. But at the same time, things happen slowly.
Yeah.
So that is how this Suryabala Sangrama came. So I was very happy with that. But my greatest disappointment was the company, the Ceylon Electricity Board,
the CEB,
just to produce electricity, and they were the real barrier.
They were the obstacle, the barrier. Can you explain? Because I hear on many public service broadcasting as well as commercial TV, and when you watch proceedings in Parliament, I think a couple of governments, including not the current government, but the one that was there before, even the electricity minister or the power and energy ministers complaining that they find it very difficult to overcome a mafia. Now, what is this? I mean, it's not a set of Italians in London or in Sri Lanka, but tell me about it. Or tell us about it.
In one word, the answer is corruption.
Right.
What happened was this. In our conferences, these were 2-day conferences. We invited CEB to come and tell us what are you going to do to the country.
Yeah, because they are the provider.
Energy
they
provider.
Are the source. Yeah.
Energy provider.
Absolutely.
So in fact, in one of this is mid-1990, 93 or 94.
Okay.
The policymaker came. He didn't want to listen to any of us. He just came 10 minutes before his presentation with the laptop, gave the presentation, ready to go.
Yeah, I suppose that's basically the conventional, the boss.
Yes. And then, in fact, he finished the presentation saying, future of Sri Lanka is coal, coal, coal.
And you were there talking about renewable energy.
I was there. I was boiling inside. I kept myself cool, and I stood up and I said, thank you for coming and giving the presentation, but I'm really worried about the last slide. If our thinking is that, our thinking is 1 century behind. And I sat down. I couldn't believe the silence in the hall. The person mumbled for a while and stopped. And then later on, somebody told me, a professor from a university told me, do you know who he is? I said, I don't know who he is, but he must be a powerful person. Somebody said he is the policymaker in the CEB. Nobody utters a word against him. And that is what's going to happen. So they didn't, from the very beginning, I saw the resistance.
So, yeah, because
it is sad.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where corruption sets in, because each time you bring in coal or hydrocarbon-based fossil fuels,
there is
something there for not just one, but a few people. And just another fact, because a lot of people, our viewers are included in this, do not understand the commercial realities of international business deals. Now, this is slightly unconventional, what I'm going to say. Each time a private company sells anything to another company abroad, there is an element of legitimate commission payment. That's very important to know, because a lot of Sri Lankans internally think commission payments are always illegal. No, however, even in the United Kingdom, when commissions are paid to a public servant, they will declare it, and if they accept it, that will go in the United Kingdom to the Treasury, in Sri Lanka to the Consolidated Fund. Because you have in Sri Lanka, just like in other civilized countries, an administrative code and a financial code. It's called the AR, Administrative Regulations, and the Financial Regulations, AR and FR. Now, I don't know how many government servants know this, but we all have to abide by it if you're in government service. And that's what the Auditor General generally audits, so to speak. I'm playing on words here. So this is the problem. When commissions are paid, they just remit it to an account, which the Sri Lankan government does not benefit at all. So I think you're absolutely right, Professor Dharmadasa, in your assumptions, because we don't have hard proof to say somebody got 10% or 15% or 5%. But this is the resistance to something which is free once installed, that is the infrastructure of renewable energy. I know Professor Dharmadasa is an expert on solar. However, he's an authority on renewable energy. In addition to solar, we have wind power. Then we have biomass, I'll come to that, a relevant point in this current economic fuel crisis. We also have hydropower, which I have to say, from the times of engineer Vimala Surendra in the Laksapana days to now, we are fairly self-sufficient in large-scale hydropower projects, but there is still room, I believe, for small-scale hydropower projects. Whether or not the Ceylon Electricity Board, as it's still called, not Sri Lanka Electricity Board, whether they pay these people or not on time, that's a commercial issue which puts people off, small-term entrepreneurs developing the mini hydro projects. So, with solar power, I want to sort of conclude the discussion, because we can go on for a very long time. I was hoping to keep this whole interview to about under 25 minutes, but it's so fascinating, we will run over that limit. In my mind, or the average person who is watching this, that's me, not you, you're the expert, I'm the average person. Solar power to a normal person, an average person, is a panel on your roof, and there is a light or two in the 1 or 2 bedroom house, and it's connected to a TV, and that's it. But your concept of Surya Bala Sangrame or the village. Explain a bit more in detail why my thought process is wrong, and that's not what we are talking about here. It's something much better and self-sustaining.
There are two things came here. Suryabala Sangrame came through the government.
Yeah.
They had three systems. First system is you connect it, you use that energy. If you have excess, you export to the national grid,
yes.
but you don't get the payment.
Right.
That is just for future, if necessary. The second one is you use some of the energy and you export the excess
to the national grid.
You get the payment for that.
Right.
Third one is net plus. Net plus is completely independent. You produce energy from the solar roof, you export it, you get the full payment from the CEB.
I see.
And if you are using energy from the internet, you pay the bill separately. So
right.
These two are different. In fact, we use this method for our solar village project.
The net plus.
Solar village project.
I see.
Plus, yeah. We have a project called Solar Village that is simply to develop our needy communities, empower them. I don't agree to give everything free to people. What we need to do, take a community, create a wealth creation method, empower them, allow them to work for their own development. That is the Solar Village. So we have, during this higher education link program, we have designed it. We have piloted in 2008. That is very interesting. I will come to that very quickly. In fact, you know that school, primary school,
that we built. Yeah.
Our parents built.
Yes.
It ran for 50 years without electricity, without running water. And then the teachers didn't go there.
Of course.
Student numbers went down to 20. In 2007, government decided to close the school because you can't run a school for 20 children. That is where I started the first solar village.
Right.
Can you remember?
I recall.
Can you remember? It's Kadruava school. Yeah. And principal came to, because whenever I go to Sri Lanka, I go to that area. Principal came to me and said, "Sir, we are going to lose the school."
Right.
And that is where we started the pilot project based around that school.
Yes.
Now the school is fourth in the region. And now school has the water. It's a solar village, first solar village. It has running water. It has electricity. And it has some computers. The student numbers went up to 80. It is from scholarship results. It is the fourth in the region. Can you see? It is you can't even recognize the school. So through the Solar Village project, what we are trying to do is we do something, create some wealth. We have a village development committee, and they manage it. They do practical projects, development projects to lift them up.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fascinating, and for the viewer, it's a very practical conversion of theory of solar renewability into making a sustainable village and also an income generating village, because I know through your leadership, through APSL and also Helasarana, two registered charities in the United Kingdom, there is a solar village building system, and it's not just confined to your area. It's gone to the north, the east, the parts of Monaragala and various other places, so across the country. Basically, I remember one particular village, you were able to get solar power to power a water pump, and then get the water into an overhead water tank and run it through a reverse osmosis water purification scheme, and then distribute the pure filtered water or the good water into 3 or 4 villages in what in Sri Lankan terms we call a landmaster or a attractor. And that also had an impact on at least possibly a psychological, even perhaps a health one, on reduction of CKD incidence, chronic kidney disease syndrome that you have in the North Central province. So I think this is important. So you mentioned about, I know that on a first-hand basis, but then also the village development committee that you were talking about, they get an income when the CEB pays, subject to that. That's a bureaucratic issue of about 20 to 25,000 Sri Lankan rupees every month by outputting the excess solar electricity that's generated. You want to sort of explain that, because that's 25,000 rupees is not a lot, but if you get it free and it goes into a common village fund, over a year, it's about 250,000 or more rupees. They could do, what do they do with that?
I will explain a little bit on that, because you came to this solar village project. We have 5 in the country now. This is the one, my favorite one. Income comes into the VDC, and
Village
Development Committee. In fact, how this one started was, these people about 20 miles away heard about the pilot project. 4 or 5 people went to see it, and they sent me a letter asking for a solar village for themselves with 104 signatures from the villagers. Can you see the interest?
Yes.
And when that happened, they were working every year. I visited them, and when I visited them, so they have 2 pumping stations, and also they have a water purification system.
This is what I was talking about.
From the provincial council.
Yeah.
And what they do is, they purify water, they sell this water for a nominal fee, for a small fee, for another 7 villages around it.
Yes.
So that is for CKD, that is for kidney diseases.
Actually, and just for the record, it's 1 rupee. That's the nominal fee, even in Sri Lankan terms, it's nothing. Yeah, I know that almost first hand, but possibly second hand.
So they have 1 income there by selling water. The second income coming from the solar roof.
Yes.
Every month they get a check, or every quarter they get a check. So that is the second income. So when people organize, the one lesson I say is, if you want to develop, do it openly.
Transparency.
In a transparent way. If you do it in a transparent way, without corruption, you will develop.
Yes.
This village committee is beautiful.
Yes.
So they have 3 income now. There's 2 income, 1 from water, 1 from solar roof, and this money, they use it for microcredits to the villagers. And they get a little bit of interest as well. Do you know that 3 years ago, they told me, sir, we have accumulated 45 lakhs in our account. This is a very rural village. And after New Year, I rang them. Usually I visit every year, not during the COVID period. And what happened was, this person said, sir, now it has gone up to 60 lakhs.
So what do they do with the money?
Exactly.
Yes.
So what they said was, they are building office building for the VDC to do all these, selling water and everything. It's a 2-story one. And I said, you have enough money now. We need 1 million, that is 10 lakhs for another solar roof. Put another solar roof on the top.
Yes.
Can you see? It is now expanding.
So it's replicating and expanding upon the success that they have.
It's beautiful. This is a good lesson for every village in Sri Lanka.
Now, this is fascinating. We can go on for a very long time, Professor Dharmadasa, because I know you're not just a theoretician, you're a practical man, and you have married the theory to practice, and you are helping Sri Lanka at a time, and not just right now, for the last 20 or 25 years. And may that good work continue for a very long time. Before we conclude, I have to ask, we have a fuel crisis in Sri Lanka. I hear biogas to my ears solar village, solar power, wind power. Now, as individuals and as families, we are looking at the government. Is there something we as, say, if I have a family with a little bit of land, how can I help myself to be independent of the national grid? Not totally, but try and sort myself out when there are power outages, etc.
I think that is what is coming now, because you can install a solar roof rather than connecting it to the national grid. The problem is if there is a power cut, even that energy produced by the solar roof is not
put back
into the national grid. Yeah. You lost it.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is have a solar roof, have an inverter to convert DC into AC,
right,
and then run all your systems at home.
So DC is direct current, AC is alternative
current.
Yeah.
So you need an inverter,
right,
and then once you have the inverter, your fridge, your light, everything runs with that. For light, of course, you can use LEDs.
Yes.
And that way you can, the energy efficiency comes in.
Yeah.
And that way, I think people can be independent. I can see some problems creating for the CEV as well.
That's fine. But this is just to help ourselves as individual families.
What happens is, that way, CEV lose their good customers.
Well,
that's problem.
That's what I call free enterprise. At the end of the day, if a service provider cannot provide a reasonably good enough service,
that's true.
Then let the people sort themselves out and be self-sufficient. But at the end of the day, we have to produce ourselves, whether it's electricity or food or anything else, to get out of this current crisis. So this is the reason why I asked. Just before we conclude, if we live in the rural areas or semi-urban areas with a little bit of land, I'm not talking of Colombo or Galle or Kurunegala or Anuradhapura town centres, but outside, say you have 30 perches of land, houses on 15 perches, you have a little garden or garden around your house. Biomass, you know, the things that we see on YouTube a lot these days. I mean, are there any downsides of having biomass?
Not at all, because we are a tropical country.
Right.
It's green and lush. We have a lot of wood. And in fact, I wrote, I don't know whether you saw it, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, how to get rid of gas queues in Sri Lanka.
Right. Right.
It is 10 slides, PowerPoint slides. I translated into Sinhala, and now we are translating into Tamil.
Right.
And last Sunday, I think, for Leeds, it is the education charity.
Right.
I gave the presentation. Somebody said, this is what we need to advertise in the television
on
to
TV,
change people.
On TV, yeah.
What I said was, yes, from 1970 onwards, we are importing gas, hydrocarbon, and we used to use it. Yes, it is clean. You can have a clean kitchen, but it has downside as well. Explosions, people die.
Yeah.
So
and you're burning dollars.
And we can completely remove these gas queues from the country by using biomass. Because it is not new to us, because we were using firewood, and we were cooking. But now entrepreneurs in the country has made beautiful cookers. Their efficiency is very high.
Yes.
You need a little bit of wood. So that is use of biomass. So we were encouraging them to start business with new cookers, wood, and wood charcoal.
Wood charcoal. Yeah.
Not like those days. When I was at Peradeniya University, people come in a karate cart selling firewood.
Yeah.
Not like that.
No, I understand.
You need to do it in a smart way. In a new vehicle, come and do it and get a good. So that is by use of biomass. Second one is biogas.
Yes.
Biogas knowledge is in the country for 2 decades.
Yes.
I know people use it for 10, 15 years without any cost. And also, there are some companies who make these biogas systems.
Right.
They think about profit only, profit maximizing.
If it's free enterprise, private enterprises, yes, they think of profit. That I understand.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is not, please don't make profit for the sake of making profit. There has to be some give and take.
What is it called? Social responsibility.
Corporate
social
responsibility, CSR.
CSR.
I understand. Yeah, and I think our viewers will understand. So what we're saying is, yes, profit is fine, but make it at a certain amount of corporate social responsibility.
Exactly. What in any research, you do research in the university, you then make a prototype, and then large scale production and marketing. Yeah. Now, in biogas, both has happened, but what hasn't happened is the replication, wide replication. Yes. That can happen within months. I know there is a company called Arpico. Arpico, they make these plastic vessels.
Yeah.
And we can do it within months.
And I'm sure there are other companies as well. We are not carrying a commercial for
No, this is not a commercial one. But I have seen it. That is why in my PowerPoint, that name is there on the system. Lastly, solar cooking. There are millions of solar cookers around the globe.
Yes.
So I mentioned the solar cookers, the best solar cooker, and I encourage people to make it in Sri Lanka and sell it in not thousands, in millions. Yeah. So with these biomass, biogas, and solar cookers, we can do our cooking in Sri Lanka, get rid of gas queues in the future. We can do it within 1 year if you want.
Thank you, Professor Dharmadasa. So the important message on this program, Connect with Rohan Dialvis through Satyajit Creations, the YouTube channel, is both for the individual and the individual family to how to help themselves, as well as there is a bigger message to the CEB, possibly the Minister of Power and Energy, the current minister. I hope all of us and all of you will benefit from this. And Professor Dharmadasa, as a resource person, there is no money involved here, no profits here. It's a service. As a resource person, can be contacted at the Sheffield Hallam University. His details are on the university website. If at a personal, private sector or government sector level, if you need to make use of the professional resource of this wonderful gentleman, Professor Dharmadasa, please feel free to contact him. May I, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know I've gone over the allocated 25 minutes, but it has been wonderful having you on this program, Connect with Rohan Dialvis. And I also thank Satyajit Creations on the YouTube channel for accommodating us to bring this valuable message. This could well be one of a series, but it's, again, thank you for all of you, but in particular, Professor Dharmadasa. Thank you very much.
Could I take one final word?
By all means.
Yeah. To help Sri Lanka, you don't have to live in Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if I was in Sri Lanka, I was just a professor. Do those things and go home and stay. Now, here, I have done so much. I mentioned that I trained as a physicist, then went to applied physics, and now I'm working in electronic engineering. Through the Solar Village project, I am becoming a social scientist. And I mentioned that when I left Sri Lanka in 1984, I had tears in my eyes. Now, when I take off from Sri Lanka, from Katunayaka, I am smiling.
Very good. Yeah, I wish you very well. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.